Hi everybody, it's Kara and I wanted to share with you my June mixed media tags for the swap that I'm going to be hosting over at Art and Sassy this month. It's June 1st, so I'm going to have that swap hopefully up and open today. And the theme or technique that you need to use with these tags is going to be embossing. You can do the dry embossing with embossing folders like I did on the background, or you can do what is called, I believe, the wet embossing using a Versamark or other slow drying ink and some embossing powder, which is what I did on this stamped image. So I just wanted to give you guys kind of a quick rundown on what I did. I had a lot of fun with these because I pulled out my Inktense pencils from Derwent and used them on the flowers, so I wanted to share that with you. The first thing I did was cut out the tag shape using my Tim Holtz die, and I cut it out using the wafer thin board that I get from, or the wafer board, which is really thin, I guess I should say, from W+9, and I cut out 2 pieces of a thinner watercolor paper, and I adhered the watercolor paper to the wafer as kind of a little bit of a stronger foundation. As you can see, it's still relatively thin. And then I ran the whole thing through an embossing folder, and that's that really pretty image you get in the background. I did it that way because I was afraid if I didn't attach the paper first, I would have a really hard time attaching it once all of the kind of indentations and everything were in it, you know, due to the embossing folder. So it worked really well, and I think it also really helped adhere the paper to the wafer board. I think it, you know, with all that pressure kind of pushed it down and made it stick a little bit better. So I was happy with that. Once that was done, then I went through and I used a few of my dilution sprays, and I don't remember the colors off the top of my head, but I just basically picked a orange, which you can see a little bit of, a green, and a yellow, and I spritzed it all over until I was happy with the color. I did that on both sides. I left the back very kind of simple and plain. I didn't really add anything to that. And then I added the black soot distress ink to the edges. I just kind of really wanted that darker color there so that hopefully the other colors would pop out. I colored in the little, I guess it's in like an eyelet piece, and adhered it. I added the black seam binding, and then I also had these flowers that I wanted to do. And so I took that stamp that I got from someone who was doing a destash sale on YouTube, and I stamped it down on watercolor paper like this. Obviously there wouldn't be any color. And I embossed it, and I did that with Versamark and a black embossing powder. And then I decided to pull out some of my Inktense pencils, which is what you can see here. I wanted to have a little bit of it kind of dry so you could see it. And I used one of my water brushes. Now you could use a regular paintbrush with some water, that's totally fine. I just happen to like to use my water brush. And then for the flower itself, if you notice when you look at these, one of them, this one, has a more dark center. So I was kind of playing around as I went, seeing what I could do. And what I learned is I could do a darker center like this one right here, but before I added the other color, this needs to dry so that they don't really kind of start to blend in and mingle, because that then really makes the red get kind of dingy and dirty almost looking. So I took a couple of reds, poppy red and chili red, and then I used bark for the inside. And I basically just colored, you know, laid down some of the pencil and then used the water brush to spread it out. And I'll give you a little look at that. So I'm going to use the chili red, and I'll just do a little bit kind of over here so you can see how it works. And it doesn't take a lot. I'm just going to kind of scribble on top of the image. So hopefully you guys can see that. Just my scribblings, nothing pretty. And I'm going to take my water brush and just brush it where I put that pencil down. And as you can see, it blends out and comes out very, very smooth. And then you can, of course, brush it out more and fill in your image. The nice thing about this one is that I knew I was going to be fussy cutting it to put it on the tag, so I didn't have to worry too terribly much about staying in the lines. Okay, so there's that. Now obviously I can add more color to it, but I found out that for me it worked better if I waited for it to dry a bit to darken it, because the water just kind of interferes with what I wanted to do. And as you can probably tell, I am not like professionally trained or anything like that. I'm just kind of playing with these things. So let me add a little bit more red right there where we already have some. And if I'm changing colors, by the way, when I use these, if I'm changing colors that are, you know, say I'm going from a blue to a red, that kind of thing, I do have a paper towel sitting next to me that I keep handy so that I can wipe the color off the tip of this brush so I don't transfer it where I don't want it to be. So hopefully you guys can see that as it darkened up that area, and so I could keep doing that until I was happy with the color. You can see, just kind of wipe off the extra color. No more is coming out, even though the tip of my paintbrush is kind of stained. I don't have any color on there. And let me show you by adding a little bit of this dark color too. You can get it darker and darker. And of course you can use whatever kind of brush strokes you wanted. If you wanted it to kind of come out a little bit more like that, you could do that. Totally up to you for whatever effect you're wanting to get. Okay? So hopefully you can see that these are pretty fun to use. They're definitely a great alternative for getting kind of that watercolor look. You can leave them really pale if you wanted to and just lay down a little bit of color, or, you know, keep adding and get them darker and darker. It's obviously up to you. You can use a water brush like this. You can use a regular brush and just, you know, dip it in water if that is more comfortable for you. Whatever you'd like to do. And of course you could always use these pencils as regular colored pencils and just color in the image, but for me I think it's almost a waste with this kind to not use them with the water like this. And hopefully, obviously I did kind of a really quick little show here, but hopefully in looking at these you can see that you can get a really kind of smooth, pretty look with your Inktense pencils. I was pretty happy with how they turned out. And then I just added some thickers that I had sitting around. These were actually kind of a canvasy thickers. And then I spritzed on some Mr. Huey's Calico Shine to just get all that kind of glitter on there. So there are my tags. There's a teeny little bit about Inktense pencils. If you have any questions about either of them, leave them down below. And as always, guys, I hope you're having a great day wherever you're at. Bye, everybody.